He only helped her up. Now galactic marriage law binds him. Darrell was just a simple human trader. He didn't want any trouble. He came to the alien world Lunari Prime only to buy spare parts and maybe taste their famous starfruit juice. The spaceport was crowded and loud, full of strange creatures, glowing signs, and flying machines. He walked through the open bazaar, looking around in wonder. Tall aliens with blue skin, short furry ones with 3 eyes, and even a few floating ones passed by him. He smiled politely, careful not to bump into anyone. He knew some alien cultures were sensitive about touch. Then it happened. The soft scream. Someone stumbled from the crowd. A young alien girl in silver robes tripped over a floating cart. Without thinking, Darrell stepped forward and caught her before she hit the ground. "Are you okay?" he asked. The girl looked up. Her glowing silver eyes widened. She froze. Her skin shimmered under his touch. And then, everything stopped. The crowd around them gasped. Whispers started. Did he touch her? During the Sacred Moon Festival? Impossible. He's human. Suddenly, a loud siren blared from the spaceport towers. Guards in dark red armor rushed in, pointing energy spears at him. "On your knees," one of them shouted. "Don't move, Earthling." Darrell raised his hands. "Wait, I was just helping her." "You touched the royal daughters," the guard growled. "You're bound by the law." Darrell blinked. "What law?" Before he could say more, a transport ship landed near them. Its doors hissed open. 2 more girls, dressed like the first one, stepped out. Their faces were different. One looked angry, the other calm, but their eyes glowed the same silver. All 3 of them walked toward him. The first girl spoke in a soft voice. "He touched me during the Sacred Moon Festival. The binding law is now active." The calm one nodded. "The law is ancient. It cannot be undone." The angry one stepped closer. "You fool, do you know what you've done?" Darrell stepped back. "I don't understand. I just helped someone who was falling." The lead guard pressed something on his wrist. A glowing chain of light wrapped around Darrell's hands. "You will be taken to Empress Velcora," he said coldly. "She will decide your fate." They threw Darrell into a shimmering prison cell aboard a sleek cruiser. Outside the bars, stars flew by as they traveled at light speed. A small floating bot entered his cell and scanned him. Subject: human male. Age: 29. Touch confirmed. Marriage binding is 97% complete. Darrell groaned. "Marriage? I don't even know their names." The bot replied. "Names? Jirelli, Mir, and Tavari. Daughters of the Empress of Lunari Prime. You touched them during the Sacred Moon Festival, the most holy event on their planet. Galactic Law considers this an unbreakable marriage bond." Darrell slumped against the wall. This couldn't be real. He was just a trader. He wasn't ready to be married to 1 alien, let alone 3. The ship landed on a huge palace platform made of shining crystal. He was pulled out and marched through long glowing halls. Alien nobles stared at him as if he was a criminal, or worse, a joke. Finally, he entered the grand chamber. A tall throne stood at the center, and on it, the Empress herself. Velcora was terrifying. Her armor sparkled like a galaxy. Her hair floated like fire, and her eyes were sharp as lasers. "You," she said in a deep voice, "are the human who dared touch my daughters." "I didn't dare. I helped someone who fell," Darrell said. "That doesn't matter," she said coldly. "The law is clear. You touched them. During the sacred time. In front of witnesses. But I didn't mean. You touched all 3. She stood up. Her voice shook the chamber. "And now, by our most ancient law, you are their husband." Darrell's heart pounded. The Empress leaned closer. "You have 2 choices, human. Accept the bond, or refuse it, and face the wrath of the Lunari Empire." Darrell opened his mouth, but no words came out. 3 alien princesses stared at him, one with curiosity, one with calm acceptance, one with blazing fury. The Empress spoke again. "Choose. Quickly. Earth won't survive our anger." The alien Empress gives him a choice, marriage or death. Darrell stood frozen, heart thumping like a war drum. The Empress, Valcora, ruler of Lunari Prime, towered above him. Her armor shimmered like starlight, and the glowing marks on her skin pulsed with royal power. The giant courtroom was silent, watching and waiting for his answer. 3 daughters stood behind her, 3 alien princesses, all beautiful, all different, and all now, somehow, tied to him. "You have 10 seconds to decide," the Empress said. "Marriage or war?" Darrell took a shaky breath. "I didn't mean to touch them. I didn't know your laws. I didn't come here to." 8 seconds. "This is a misunderstanding." 6. "Please, I'm just a trader from Earth." 4. He looked at the daughters. The tall one with sharp eyes, Jirili, had crossed her arms. She looked like she wanted to punch him. The second, Meyer, stood with her hands gently folded. She looked kind, sad, even. The third, Tavari, had strange glowing devices in her hair and a cold, logical stare. 2. Darrell swallowed. "I choose. I'll talk. But I don't agree yet." A long pause. The Empress narrowed her eyes. "Interesting," she said. "Guards, take him to the guest chamber. My daughters will test his spirit. If he survives, then we talk again." Before he could ask what test meant, glowing chains pulled him back, and the grand doors slammed shut. Later that night, Darrell sat on the edge of a floating crystal bed in a tall room with glowing walls. He rubbed his forehead. "Marriage," he whispered to himself. "To 3 alien women. I don't even have a girlfriend on Earth." A soft chime rang. The door opened. Jirili stepped in, wearing light armor and holding a practice spear. "You want to marry a Lunari princess?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Then you fight like one." "Wait, what?" She tossed him a stick. "Let's see if you have a spine." Before he could argue, she charged. "Challenge one." Jirili, the warrior. Jirili didn't hold back. She swung, kicked, and flipped like a true warrior. Darrell ducked, stumbled, rolled, and barely dodged. "You're weak," she growled. "Slow, clumsy." He panted. "I'm not a soldier." "But you caught me when I fell," she said. Reflex. Instinct. She slashed again. Darrell blocked, then somehow twisted, and knocked her back. She landed on one knee. There was a moment of silence. Then she smiled. "Ha! Maybe not hopeless." Challenge 2. Meyer, the healer. Hours later, Meyer entered his room holding a small glowing cube. "You must show kindness," she said softly. "Compassion is part of bonding." She pressed the cube, and a hologram appeared. An alien child crying, lost in a maze. "What do I do?" Darrell asked. "Help the child escape. Comfort it. But don't force your way." He stepped into the hologram. It felt real. He knelt beside the child, who backed away, frightened. Darrell spoke gently, offered his hand, shared his food. He didn't touch, didn't rush. Slowly, the child took his hand. The maze walls fell. When he returned, Meyer had tears in her eyes. "You have a heart," she whispered. "That matters more than blood." Challenge 3. Tavari, the mind. Last was Tavari. She brought him to a cold white chamber. Symbols floated in the air. Pulsing lights moved across the floor. "This is a logic grid," she said. "Your mind will be tested." "I'm not a genius, Tavari," Darrell said. "You don't need to be. You need to think." Questions began. Puzzles, riddles, decisions about people's lives. Save a planet of strangers, or your own family. Speak the truth, or save a friend. Each answer reshaped the room. Darrell didn't always choose the right one, but he answered with heart and honesty. In the end, Taveri nodded. "You're not intelligent like our scholars," she said, "but you have a strange kind of wisdom. Return to the Empress." The next day, Darrell stood once again before Empress Valcora. "My daughters have tested you," she said. "They report you are interesting." He looked at them. Zarelli gave him a respectful nod. Meyer smiled warmly. Taveri folded her arms but didn't look away. The Empress stepped forward. "You touched my daughters. By our law, the bond is active." "But I didn't mean it," Darrell said. "Isn't intent important? On Lunari Prime, sacred touch is destiny. You touched them during the moonlight rite. That's not a small thing. It is everything." Darrell felt the room spinning. "Can't I go back to Earth?" "Of course," the Empress said. "You are free to refuse the bond." He sighed in relief, until she finished. "But if you do, we will see it as a grave insult. To reject our royal line is to insult our honor. Earth will suffer. Trade, trust, even peace will end. The Council may even vote for war." His heart sank. "I have to marry them, or risk a galactic war." "You don't have to," the Empress said. "You only have to live with your choice." She raised her hand, and the three daughters stepped forward. "Now decide, human." The three princesses looked at him. Each had seen his strength. Each had touched his soul. But Darrell, he was still just a human caught in a law he didn't understand. I need time," he whispered. "No more time," the Empress said. "In 3 sons, you must marry, or leave Lunari Prime forever, and face what comes after." Each princess tests the human who touched them. Darrell stared out of the tall crystal window of his chamber. Lunari Prime's twin moons floated above the horizon, casting silver light across the palace gardens. Their beauty couldn't calm the storm inside him. 3 days. That's all the time he had to make a choice: marry the Empress's daughters, or return to Earth and possibly bring doom to humanity. He didn't ask for this, but now he was tied to it, by ancient alien law and powerful emotions he didn't yet understand. A soft knock echoed at the door. Before he could speak, it opened, and there stood the first daughter, Zarelli. Zarelli's test: strength of will. Zarelli stepped into his chamber, wearing lightweight battle armor that glowed faintly. "Put this on," she said, tossing him a black tunic. "What is it?" Darrell asked. "A test." "Another one." Zarelli crossed her arms. "On Lunari Prime, a warrior must know pain, discipline, and courage. If you're going to be bound to us, I need to see your spirit." Before he could object, she grabbed his arm and pulled him along the corridor. They exited the palace and entered a strange training arena carved into the side of a floating mountain. Hovering rocks, fire pits, and illusion traps lit up all around. Zarelli handed him a practice staff. "Survive 10 minutes. No retreat. No surrender." "You want me to fight you?" Darrell asked, holding the staff like a broom. "No," she said with a smirk. "I want you to last." Then she lunged. Darrell dodged the first strike barely, feeling the wind from her swing pass his ear. She didn't stop. She moved like fire and lightning. Fast, sharp, beautiful, and terrifying. Darrell stumbled, rolled, tripped, got back up. His arms ached. His lungs burned. He was not a fighter, but he refused to give up. Zarelli hit him with a blow that knocked him to the floor. She pointed her staff at his neck. "It's over." But Darrell didn't surrender. He stood again, wobbling. Zarelli froze. Then, slowly, she lowered her weapon. "You're weak in body," she said, "but strong in will." She walked closer. "You protected me when I fell. You protected yourself here. Maybe you can protect my heart too." Before he could reply, she turned and left. Meyer's test: purity of heart. Later that night, Darrell found a note on his bed. Written in soft ink, it simply said, "Come to the Garden of Whispers. Meyer." He followed glowing lanterns to a quiet, moonlit space behind the palace. Strange alien flowers shimmered in the dark. In the center, Meyer sat by a small pond. Her white robes glowed faintly. She looked like a ghost, gentle and peaceful. "I didn't bring weapons," Darrell said softly. "Good," she whispered. "This test is not of your body. It is of your heart." She reached into the pond and pulled out a glowing orb. She placed it between them. "This is the mirror of emotion. It reflects what you truly feel." The orb began to glow, first blue, then green, then white. "Close your eyes," she said. "Speak honestly. No lies." Darrell closed his eyes. "I'm afraid," he said. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to marry anyone. But I want to do what's right. I don't want to hurt your world. I don't want to hurt you. I want peace, even if I don't understand everything." When he opened his eyes, the orb glowed a bright gold. Mare smiled, tears in her eyes. "You may not understand love," she said, "but your heart is kind. That is more rare than strength or knowledge." She reached out, gently touching his hand. "You healed something inside me tonight," she whispered, even without knowing it. Taveri's test, depth of mind. The next morning, he woke to a cold, mechanical voice. "Subject Darrell, please report to Logic Chamber 7. Test initiated by Princess Taveri." Darrell groaned and sat up. Of course. The last one. He entered the Logic Chamber, a room filled with glowing lines and floating puzzles. Screens blinked around him. Taveri stood in the center, wearing a sleek robe filled with shimmering data streams. "I've studied you," she said. "Your brain is primitive. But you are unpredictable. That fascinates me." She tapped a control. Holographic images surrounded him. Earth cities, alien invasions, trade deals, war simulations. "Every choice has consequence," she said. "You must make 5 impossible decisions. No right answer, only wait." One by one, the simulations played. Save a colony of aliens you've never met, or rescue a human child screaming for help. Reveal a secret that could destroy a peace treaty, or stay silent and live with the guilt. Give up your own life to save 3 strangers, or survive and live with the shame. Darrell chose, not with logic, not with calculation, but with instinct, emotion, empathy. At the end, the simulations faded. Taveri walked toward him, her face unreadable. "Emotion is inefficient," she said. He sighed. "So I failed." "No," she whispered. "You reminded me that not everything must be calculated. Sometimes you must simply feel." She leaned closer. "I've never felt before. Not until you." The night before the decision, Darrell sat alone again. He watched the stars above. His body ached. His heart was confused. Zureli saw his strength. Mir felt his kindness. Taveri touched his soul. He didn't love them yet, but he respected them, admired them. And now he had to decide. 3 women, 1 law, 1 future. The moonlight touched his face as he whispered, "What if I choose all 3? Behind him, the Empress watched from the shadows, and she smiled. The escape attempt, but the daughters follow. Darrell couldn't sleep that night. He had been tested by sword, soul, and logic, and somehow he passed. 3 daughters of an alien empress had seen something in him that even he didn't know existed. Strength, kindness, wisdom, maybe even love. But deep inside, one truth echoed louder than the rest. I don't belong here. He was just a trader from Earth, a man who sold spare parts, tools, and ship repairs. Not a warrior, not a hero, and certainly not a galactic prince. He sat by the window of his crystal guest chamber, watching the stars above the Lunari sky. They twinkled like distant eyes, watching, waiting. A quiet knock broke his thoughts. It wasn't a guard this time. It was a palace cleaner, a small, cloaked figure pushing a hover cart. She slipped him something folded, then left. Darrell opened it. It was a map, hand-drawn, simple. It showed a hidden shuttle in the hangar, unguarded, just past the servants' tunnels. At the bottom was a short note. If you truly want to leave, take this chance. You don't belong in a cage. No name, no signature. But the writing, it looked like Tavares. The escape begins. Midnight. The palace fell into silence. Only floating lights moved across the halls. Darrell took a risk and crept into the shadows, following the map's lines through tight servant hallways and under glowing bridges. He moved past sleeping guards, empty storage rooms, and strange alien machines. Finally, he reached the private hangar. And there it was, a small single-pilot shuttle, sleek and silver, humming softly. Darrell's heart raced. He approached the hatch, pressed his hand on the panel. Green light. Access granted. He paused only once, looked back. This is it, he whispered. Freedom. He entered and powered the engines. The ship began to hum louder. Lights blinked green across the console. Thrusters warmed up. But just as the hangar doors began to open, the alarm blared. Unauthorized takeoff detected. He swore. His fingers flew across the panel. Too late. The shuttle suddenly rocked, and the door burst open. He turned and froze. The daughters arrive. Jireli stood at the hatch, spear glowing in her hand, fire in her eyes. You're running, she said coldly, after everything. Behind her, Meyer looked heartbroken. You were going to leave, without saying goodbye. Taveri appeared last, arms crossed, eyes calm. I gave you the map. I wanted to see what you'd do. Darrell raised his hands. I just need to think. I'm not ready for this. Jireli stormed forward. You think we are. You think we dreamed of marrying a human stranger. We were raised to be rulers, not wives. But still, we gave you a chance. Meyer stepped beside her. Her voice trembled. We let you into our lives, our minds, our hearts. Taveri's voice was cold but clear. And you ran. Darrell backed into the pilot's seat. You don't understand. On Earth, we don't marry without love, without time. We have freedom. Jireli's eyes burned. Then why did you catch me when I fell? Meyer whispered. Why did you cry when I showed you our hearts? Taveri stepped closer. Why did you choose hope, not logic, when I tested you? The shuttle went silent. Darrell looked at them and realized he had already chosen crash and chaos. Suddenly, the hangar shook. A massive thum echoed through the walls. Alarms changed tone. A voice cried out. Warning. External attack detected. Pirates breaching planetary shield. Jireli cursed. The Varric clan. They've returned. Who? Darrell asked, standing. Meyer looked panicked. Outlaw pirates. Enemies of the throne. They want Mother's tech and her daughters. Taveri turned toward him. We're targets. So are you. Before anyone could respond, the hangar wall exploded, sending fire and shards across the floor. Figures in black armor entered. Varric raiders with blasters and metal claws. Take the royal blood, one shouted, and the earthling too. He's valuable. Darrell ducked as lasers flew. Jireli jumped into battle, her spear dancing like lightning. Meyer shielded Darrell with a healing pulse field. Taveri launched a stun device into the invaders. But they kept coming. Darrell grabbed a metal pipe and stood beside them. We'll talk later, he said. Right now, let's survive. Escape together. With Jireli leading the way, they fought through the burning corridor. Smoke, screams, and chaos filled the air. Darrell kept close to the princesses, protecting Meyer while Jireli cleared the path and Taveri disabled traps. They reached an emergency exit. Taveri pressed her hand to the scanner. Opening portal to Jungle Moonbase. Temporary safe zone. "You're coming?" Darrell asked. All three looked at him. Jirili smirked. "You're not leaving us behind, husband." He blinked. "I'm not your husband yet." Mir smiled sadly. "But you didn't fly away." Taveri whispered. "That means something." The portal opened in a flash of white light, and the four of them disappeared into the unknown. Surviving together, and unexpected feelings. Darrell landed hard on the jungle floor. His back hit damp moss, and above him the night sky glowed purple with two moons. The air smelled like warm rain and distant fire. Around him, trees moved as if they breathed. Their leaves shimmered with faint light. Strange bird creatures shrieked in the distance. He coughed and sat up. Then he saw them. Jirili, Mir, and Taveri, also lying nearby, breathing heavily from the battle. They had escaped. Barely. But the fight wasn't over. Now they were stranded on Verkamoon, a remote, wild place used by the royal family for secret retreats. No guards, no tech towers, no rescue beacons. Just survival. First night, fire and silence. Jirili built a fire using glowing bark and sparks from her spear. Mir healed Darrell's shoulder, which had been grazed by a pirate's blast. Taveri checked a broken wrist screen, frowning. No signal. The comm line is dead. We are truly cut off. The four sat around the fire, their faces glowing in the flickering light. The air was thick with tension. Darrell finally broke the silence. "I didn't plan to come here with you. You tried to run," Jirili said, her voice sharp. "I know," he replied. "And you followed me. Why?" Mir looked down. "Because you matter now." Jirili stabbed the fire with a stick. "Because you proved you're not just some soft earthling." Taveri spoke without looking up. "Because none of us wanted to admit we care." A long pause. Darrell looked at each of them. "I don't know if I'm ready to marry anyone, but I'm not running anymore." Jirili nodded once. Mir smiled faintly. Taveri raised one eyebrow. "That's progress." Day 2. The hunt and the trap. The next morning, Jirili handed Darrell a long bone-like spear. "You're hunting with me," she said. "I've never hunted anything in my life," he replied. "Then today's your first lesson." The jungle was dense, full of glowing plants, hissing vines, and sharp thorns. They tracked footprints of a growl beast, a horned animal with thick fur and massive tusks. Jirili moved like a shadow, fast, focused, fearless. Darrell, on the other hand, stumbled through the underbrush, making noise, tripping over roots. "You're hopeless," she muttered, annoyed. But then the growl beast attacked, from behind. Jirili turned, too late. Darrell tackled her out of the way and raised his spear. He didn't think. He moved. He acted. He jabbed at the beast's leg, distracting it long enough for Jirili to recover and finish it with a blast from her pulse spear. The beast fell. Jirili stared at him in silence. "You protected me," she whispered. He shrugged. "You were going to call me hopeless again." She punched his arm gently. "You still are." But her eyes were softer now. Day 3. A moment with Myra. That night, Myra asked Darrell to walk with her. They wandered near a glowing lake. The water shimmered like liquid light. Tiny winged creatures floated around them, silent and curious. "I used to come here when I was small," Myra said, "when my mother was too busy to notice me." She sat on a rock. "Do you think your home misses you?" "I don't know," Darrell said honestly. "I don't have many people waiting for me. My parents passed. I have no siblings, a few friends, but no one special." Myra looked at him, eyes gentle. "Maybe that's why the universe brought you here." She leaned closer. "Maybe we all needed each other, more than we thought." Then she kissed his cheek, soft as moonlight. He didn't move. He didn't pull away. Something in his chest ached, but in a good way. Day 4. Tavari's wall cracks. Later, in the camp, Tavari was struggling with a small transmitter she'd rebuilt using scrap. Darrell watched her, curious. "You're always working." "I have to," she replied. "It keeps my mind sharp." "You don't like emotions, do you?" She paused, then said, "Emotions are unstable. Data is clean, predictable, safe." Darrell nodded. "But even data can change. Even stars move." Tavari blinked, surprised. "That's surprisingly insightful," she said. He smiled. "You're not the only one who learns things." For a long moment, she just looked at him. "And for the first time since they met," she smiled. "A real one." That night, the campfire decision. They sat by the fire again. Jirili, fierce but calm. Mir, glowing like warmth itself. Tavari, thoughtful and still. Darrell sat with them. "I still don't know if I'm the right choice for you," he said. "But I know I want to try. If you'll have me, all three." Jirili leaned forward. "So you finally decided." Mir's eyes shone. "You choose us." Tavari's voice was quiet. "You're not logical, but you're honest. That's rare." Darrell nodded. "I choose you, all three, not because I'm forced, but because I care." The fire flickered. Then Jirili took his hand. Mir leaned against his shoulder. Tavari touched his back, just once. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. But far above them, the stars watched, and somewhere deep in the galaxy, Empress Valkora smiled. The Empress comes, and she's not alone. For 4 days, Darrell and the princesses survived on the wild moon called Verka. Together, they hunted, built shelters, cooked over glowing fires, and shared stories beneath twin moons. And something strange had happened, something even more powerful than the alien laws. They had begun to care for each other. Jirili, the fierce warrior, now smiled more. Mir, the soft healer, laughed freely. Tavari, the cold genius, had started to listen with her heart, not just her mind. And Darrell, he was no longer just the lost human. He had become their protector, their partner, their choice. But peace doesn't last forever. Not on Lunari Prime. And not when a throne is at stake. Warning from the sky. It began with a rumble in the ground. The trees shook. Animals screamed. The sky turned orange. Then a beam of light shot down from the clouds, and a massive ship appeared, blocking the twin moons with its shadow. Jirili stood, eyes narrowing. "That's a royal carrier." Tavari activated her scanner. "It's my mother. Empress Valkora is here." Mir grabbed Darrell's hand. "She wouldn't come alone. Something's wrong." Before they could act, a glowing orb floated down from the ship. It opened midair, projecting a life-sized hologram of the Empress herself. Her voice boomed across the jungle. "Daughters of mine, earthling of strange fate, I come to finish what was started. Prepare yourselves. The council is coming, and so is the judgment." The message ended. The orb burned up. Darrell stood still. "The judgment?" he asked. Tavari's face was pale. "It means the Galactic Council is voting on whether to honor our marriage or erase the bond, and erase you." The royal court comes to Verka. Hours later, the jungle clearing was transformed into a makeshift court. Guards in golden armor secured the area. A round crystal platform hovered above the ground like a floating throne, and on it stood Empress Valkora, tall and cold as ever. Behind her floated members of the Galactic Council, leaders of many worlds, their faces hidden behind glowing masks. Darrell, dressed in ceremonial robes given by Mir, stood beside the three daughters. The Empress raised her hand. "This trial is now in session. The question is simple. Can a human, an outsider, truly bond with royal Lunari blood? Or is this an insult to the crown?" Murmurs echoed among the masked council. Jirili stepped forward. Mother, he protected us, fought with us, stood beside us. Isn't that enough? Mir joined her. He chose us, not because of law, but because of love. Taveri said only one thing. He passed every test, including the ones we didn't plan. The Empress looked at Darrell. Well, human, speak. Darrell's speech. Darrell took a deep breath. The entire galaxy, it seemed, held its breath. I came here by accident, he said. I didn't know your customs. I didn't mean to start a bond. But I stayed. I didn't run. When danger came, I fought beside your daughters. When they were wounded, I protected them. I learned your world, your ways, and your hearts. I don't claim to be worthy of royalty. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a genius. I'm not powerful. He looked at Shirelli, then Mir, then Taveri. But they chose me, and I choose them. Not out of fear, not out of law, but because I want to. He turned to the council. You call it a risk. I call it a beginning. Council's decision, and a sudden attack. Silence. Then one of the masked counselors floated forward. The human speaks with truth. We vote, yes, the bond is valid. Another said, I vote yes. A third, yes. Then a cold voice boomed from behind the Empress. No, I say we remove him. By force. The crowd turned. It was General Rakuth, a warlord from a rival Lunari bloodline. This human weakens the throne, Rakuth said. Let us erase this shame. He raised a hidden weapon from his robe, pointed it at Darrell. Everything slowed. Shirelli moved first, diving in front of him. Mir raised a shield. Taveri triggered a hidden pulse trap, but the blast fired and hit Darrell square in the chest. He fell. The human's heart. The jungle went still. Darrell's body lay smoking on the ground. Mir screamed. No. Shirelli roared like a beast. Taveri stood frozen. The Empress turned to General Rakuth, face cold with fury. You have broken royal law, she said, and touched my daughter's chosen. Rakuth tried to speak, but her hand moved like lightning. A beam of energy cut through the air, and the warlord fell. The council said nothing. The Empress knelt beside Darrell. Mir placed her hands on his chest, tears falling. I can't heal him, she whispered. His heart. But then, a beat. Faint. Then stronger. Darrell gasped, eyes opening slowly. Ugh, did anyone get the license plate of that blaster? Shirelli laughed. Mir sobbed in joy. Taveri knelt beside him. You fool, Taveri whispered. You scared us. He smiled weakly. Did we win? The Empress stood. Her voice shook the sky. Today, the bond is confirmed. The human is family. The council nodded. A new alliance was formed. That night, as stars filled the sky again, the Empress called Darrell aside. You are not what I expected, Earthling. I get that a lot, he said. But you have something more powerful than tech, than law, than blood. She looked at her daughters. You have their trust. She placed her hand on his shoulder. Prepare for the ceremony. Tomorrow, you become royal. Galactic wedding. And one final twist. The morning of the ceremony. The sun rose over Lunari Prime in dazzling colors. Pink, gold, and lavender. The sky itself seemed to sing. High above the capital, the Sky Dome Palace floated on energy beams. Around it, banners danced with symbols of the royal family and a new one, the Earth symbol, freshly added. Inside, the palace hummed with preparation. Alien nobles, galactic envoys, and representatives from dozens of planets gathered for a rare event. A royal wedding. But not just any wedding. A human, Darrell of Earth, was marrying 3 daughters of the Lunari Empress. A bond never done before. A law never tested like this. The galaxy watched. Darrell's reflection. Darrell stood alone in a private chamber, staring at himself in a mirror made of flowing crystal. He wore traditional Lunari silk armor, half robe, half ceremonial shield. Lines of silver ran down the cloth, glowing softly. The mark of the chosen bonded was now tattooed on his hand. He took a deep breath. No more doubt. No more fear. "I'm ready," he said softly. Then the door opened, and in walked the Empress herself. Velcora stood tall, regal, and quiet. For a moment, she just looked at him. "When you first arrived, I thought you were a threat," she said. "A problem. A mistake." Darrell didn't speak. "But now, I see you are something else. A beginning." She placed a small crown, shaped like intertwined moons, into his hands. "This makes you consort, husband, royal. Protect it well." He nodded. "I will." The ceremony begins. The grand hall opened to cheers and music. Darrell stepped onto the platform. And then, they came. Jurili, dressed in red armor with golden trim, hair braided in warrior fashion, eyes burning with pride. Mir, in a soft white gown of living silk, flowers growing from her shoulders, glowing with peace. Taveri, in an elegant dark blue robe embedded with data ribbons, calm, focused, and graceful. They stood beside him, each powerful, beautiful, and proud. The Empress raised her voice. "Before the galaxy, I present a new bond. Not of war, not of power, but of trust." She turned to the daughters. "Do you accept this bond, even though it breaks tradition?" Each nodded. "I do," said Jurili. "I do," whispered Mir. "I do," said Taveri softly. The Empress turned to Darrell. "And you, human of Earth, do you accept this bond, this duty, this love?" Darrell looked at them and smiled. "I do." The room glowed. A ring of light formed around them. Symbols from ancient Lunari scrolls burned in the air, marking the official recognition of union. Crowds cheered. The bond was complete. One final twist. After the ceremony, music filled the air, and floating tables offered rare food from across the galaxy. Darrell barely had a moment to breathe before someone tapped his shoulder. He turned. It was a tall alien noble, dressed in black and gold, face hidden behind a ceremonial mask. "You," the figure said in a strange, sharp voice. "You are the Earthling who married the daughters of the Empress." Darrell nodded, cautious. "Yes. Who are you?" The figure removed his mask. He had glowing blue skin, sharp eyes, and silver horns curling back. His expression was unreadable. "My name is Lord Kelfar of Dravon 6. 1 month ago, my daughter visited Lunari Prime during the Sacred Moon Festival." Darrell blinked. "Okay." "She fell. You helped her up." Jurili, Mir, and Taveri all turned sharply. "You touched her," Kelfar said slowly. "During the sacred time." A silence fell. "By Dravon law," the Lord said darkly, "you are now also her husband." Darrell stared, mouth open. Jurili grabbed her spear. "Absolutely not." Mir's jaw dropped. He didn't even know her. Taveri's eyes narrowed. "This is a diplomatic ambush." But Kelfar smiled. "The girl wishes to meet him. She has chosen to honor the law. She awaits him in orbit." Darrell rubbed his forehead. Are you saying I accidentally married 4 alien women?" Jurili growled. "If he is our husband, no one else touches him." The Empress stepped forward, face unreadable. "This law must be reviewed. But for now, the galaxy knows this truth." She looked at Darrell. "You are no longer just a man of Earth. You are a man of destiny." Final scene. Darrell's choice. Later, as the night cooled, Darrell stood on a balcony with Jurili, Mir, and Taveri. They looked up at the stars. "So," Jurili said, "you want a 5th wife too?" Darrell laughed nervously. "Let me survive the first week with 3. They laughed. Mir placed her head on his shoulder. "We'll face it together." Taveri spoke softly. Even if more strange laws come, you belong with us now. Darrell looked at the stars. Earth was far away now, but his heart wasn't lost. It was found on a strange world, among strange customs, with 3 powerful, beautiful, and loyal alien wives. And maybe one more soon. He smiled. Let the galaxy come. I'm ready.